For 24 hours, the United States officially recognized Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and Aksai Chin as Indian territory. It was a massive geopolitical signal. And then, just as quickly as it appeared, it vanished. The map was deleted. This isn't just a social media mistake. It is a calculated diplomatic signal that exposes the fragile reality of alliances. Why did the US backtrack? Let's analyze. In the world of geopolitics, maps are not just drawings, they are statements of intent, they are declarations of power. When the Office of the United States Trade Representative, the USTR, released a graphic celebrating a new trade framework with India, the world noticed something specific. They didn't look at the trade numbers, they looked at the borders. For decades, the United States has carefully walked a tightrope regarding India's northern borders. Typically, their official maps show dotted lines. They mark the territory of Gilgit-Baltistan to the west and Aksai Chin to the east as disputed territories. They do this to maintain a balance, to keep leverage over India, Pakistan and China simultaneously. But this time, the map was different. It was a full, solid map of India. It aligned perfectly with New Delhi's official stance. It showed the entire region of Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh as an integral and inalienable part of India. If you look at the geography here, focus on the northernmost tip. This region, strategically vital because it borders Afghanistan, Pakistan and China, is the crown of India's territorial integrity. By publishing this map, even for a brief moment, the United States sent a shockwave through Islamabad and Beijing. It looked like a major policy shift. It looked like the US was finally acknowledging the reality on the ground to counter China. But then, reality set in. The post was deleted, the map was removed, and the silence that followed was deafening. This creates a critical question for every Indian observer. Was this a genuine mistake by a graphic designer, or was it a deliberate geopolitical test? A realist will tell you there are no accidents at this level of government. This is what we call a signaling game. The US likely released the map to dangle a carrot in front of India, to make New Delhi feel supported, only to snatch it away the moment the pressure from Pakistan or China became too high, or perhaps once they got what they wanted from the trade negotiations. It proves a very uncomfortable truth about international relations. The United States does not care about India's territorial integrity because it believes in it. It cares about it only when it suits American interests. The moment that map became a liability, it was erased. This is the volatility of relying on a superpower that is currently in a state of chaotic transition. But the betrayal didn't stop at a map. If we dig deeper into the actual documents released alongside this map, we find something even more concerning. Let's look at the fact sheet scandal that happened simultaneously. The Trump administration released a document detailing the new trade deal. In this document, they made some very bold claims. They stated that India had committed to purchasing $500 billion worth of American goods. $500 billion, that is $500 billion. They also claimed India would remove tariffs on pulses, a sensitive agricultural commodity. This was a classic American power play. They published a document trying to force India's hand, trying to make it look like India had already agreed to these massive concessions. But here's where the story gets interesting. India did not stay silent. The Indian government pushed back hard, and within 24 hours, the White House had to revise the fact sheet. They had to delete the lies. Notice the change in language because in diplomacy, words are weapons. The original document said India was committed to the purchase. The new document, the revised one, says India intends to purchase. There is a massive difference between a commitment and an intention. A commitment is a binding promise. An intention is just a vague desire. Furthermore, the reference to removing tariffs on pulses, gone. The reference to removing the digital services tax, gone. What does this tell us? It tells us that the US tried to bully India into a narrative. They tried to announce concessions that India never gave, hoping that public pressure would force New Delhi to accept them. It was a bluff, and India called it. This brings us to the core analysis of the hypocrisy of the West. We constantly hear lectures about a rules-based international order. We hear about transparency. Yet here's the world's leading superpower manipulating maps and falsifying trade documents to score domestic political points. When they want India to counter China, they might show a map with Aksai Chin as part of India. When they want to appease Pakistan, or when they need Pakistan's help in the Middle East, that map disappears. This is not friendship, this is transaction. The deletion of the map is a reminder that the US policy on Kashmir hasn't actually changed. They are simply using the issue as a leverage point. They turn the dial up when they need India, and they turn it down when they don't. It is a cynical, cold, and calculated strategy. And if you are an Indian policy maker, or even just an Indian citizen watching this, you need to understand that American validation is a mirage. It looks real from a distance, but it vanishes when you get close. So what does this impact India? What is the strategic lesson here? The immediate impact is a loss of trust. You cannot build a long-term strategic partnership if one partner is constantly editing the terms of the deal after the handshake. The India angle here is about the concept of strategic autonomy. For years, some factions in India have argued for a formal alliance with the West. They argue that we need the US to secure our borders against China. This incident proves why that is a dangerous fantasy. If the US cannot even keep a JEP image of a map on their Twitter feed for 24 hours because of diplomatic pressure, do you really think they will put boots on the Himalayas if a war starts? The answer is obviously no. However, there is a silver lining. This incident also highlighted India's growing diplomatic strength. Look at the trade deal revision again. 20 years ago, if the US published a fact sheet saying India committed to something, India might have been too afraid to contradict them publicly. Today, India forced the White House to edit their own official document. That shows leverage. It shows that India is negotiating from a position of power, not a position of desperation. The lesson for India is clear. We must continue to engage with the United States because they are an essential economic partner and a technology provider. But we must never and ever mistake their interests for our own. Our borders, our maps, and our territorial integrity are our responsibility alone. We cannot look to Washington for validation. If we want the world to accept our map, we need the economic and military power to enforce it, not a retweet from the US trade representative. Ultimately, this week has been a masterclass in real politics. We saw a map that made us happy and a division that made us angry. But emotions have no place in strategy. The reality is, the US is a declining superpower trying to extract as much wealth as possible from rising powers like India. They tried to lock India into a $500 billion purchase and they failed. They tried to use the Kashmir map as a temporary signal and then retreated. This is the nature of the game. It is a double game, and India must play it better than they do. We must accept the trade deals that benefit us, reject the ones that don't, and ignore the noise on social media, because at the end of the day, a map on Twitter changes nothing. The soldiers standing in Ladakh and Kashmir change everything. Now, before we wrap up this analysis, I want to test your geopolitical knowledge regarding the region we just discussed. Here's a quick question for you. The line of control, or LOC, separates Indian-held Kashmir from Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. But what is the name of the line that separates Indian territory from the Chinese-occupied Aksai Chin? Is it option A, the Radcliffe Line? Option B, the Durand Line? Option C, the actual line of control? Or option D, the McMahon Line? Let me know your answer in the comments below. It is important to know these lines because, as we saw today, the Americans seem to be confused about them. In conclusion, this incident serves as a stark warning. The deletion of the map and the revision of the trade deal are not just errors, they are evidence of a partner that is unpredictable and driven solely by self-interest. India's path forward is not through alliances, but through strength. Because in geopolitics, there are no permanent friends and no permanent enemies, only permanent interests. Thank you for listening.